The Army of Islam is now, as in the two previous imposed wars, bravely defending the waters, soil, and flag to which it belongs. Relying on its strong divine and popular backing, and in compact and solid ranks, it stands shoulder to shoulder with the other mujahideen of the armed forces, grappling with the two armies at the head of the front of unbelief and arrogance, and has laid bare their weakness and humiliation before the eyes of the world. Just as its drones strike the American and Zionist criminals like lightning, its brave Navy stands ready to make the enemies taste the bitterness of new defeats.
New defeats coming may be the message after Mujtaba Khamenei sharply raised the stakes, with fresh warnings suggesting Iran's camp could widen the maritime pressure campaign beyond Hormuz. Forget Hormuz for a moment, because Trump's war may now be drifting toward another crucial choke point as Iran-linked Houthis threaten the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. Mujtaba may have dropped a deadly hint, and fears of a scarier plot are growing after the USS Gerald R. Ford returned to the region amid rising Red Sea tensions. Iran ally Houthis have threatened to shut the Bab al-Mandeb Strait next, raising the specter of a second maritime crisis with major consequences for global trade. The Houthis' big threat appears aimed squarely at Trump, especially as Iran's Hormuz U-turn adds pressure on Washington from multiple sea lanes at once. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement reportedly threatened on April 19 to shut the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, opening another potential pressure point in the wider regional confrontation. Houthi Deputy Foreign Minister warned that the group could move to close the waterway linking the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden if tensions continue to escalate. The Houthis also signaled that the Bab al-Mandeb could be targeted if US President Donald Trump obstructs peace efforts, tying the threat directly to Washington's role in the crisis. Hussein al-Ezzi said, and I quote, "If Sana'a decides to close the Bab al-Mandeb, then all of mankind and jinn will be utterly powerless to open it. And therefore, it is best for Trump, and the complicit world, to immediately end all practices and policies that obstruct peace and to show the respect required for the rights of our people and nation." Unquote. The Bab al-Mandeb is one of the world's most critical shipping choke points, carrying major flows of crude oil, fuel, and container traffic between Asia and Europe. At its narrowest point, the strait is about 29 kilometers wide and channels maritime traffic through two main lanes, making it highly vulnerable to disruption. Oil shipments moving from the Gulf toward the Mediterranean depend heavily on the Bab al-Mandeb route as part of the larger Suez-linked trade corridor. Russian oil cargoes bound for Asian markets also use this strategic maritime passage, underscoring its importance well beyond the Middle East. Any disruption in the Bab al-Mandeb can force ships to reroute around the Cape of Good Hope in southern Africa, increasing voyage time, insurance burdens, and freight costs. Donald Trump has pulled his war cabinet into an urgent huddle just as Iran shuts the Strait of Hormuz again, sharply raising the stakes for both diplomacy and conflict. On April 18th, he reportedly convened an emergency situation room meeting specifically to respond to Iran's surprise decision to reimpose restrictions on the waterway. Senior figures including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Chief Pete Hegseth and the CIA Director John Ratcliffe were among those called in, highlighting how serious the moment is. Trump's inner circle confidants like Scott Bessant, Susie Wilkes along with Joint Chiefs Chair Dan Kane, were also reportedly at the table. One U.S. official has already warned that if no breakthrough comes soon, the war could resume within days, underscoring how fragile the current pause really is. The crisis session lands just days before the current US-Iran ceasefire is due to expire on April 22nd, adding extra pressure to decide whether to extend talks or restart strikes. Reports also say Iran has privately warned it could resume missile fire on Israel if the new ceasefire in Lebanon breaks down or is not carried into a longer-term deal. A 10-day Israel-Hezbollah truce started on April 18th, yet Israeli officials have already labeled it temporary, hinting they still see unfinished business in the north. On the same day, Iran abruptly reversed its earlier reopening and slapped new restrictions back on the Strait of Hormuz, reigniting fears over critical oil choke point. The step came directly after Washington chose to keep its naval blockade on Iran-linked shipping in place, even as Tehran briefly relaxed its own controls. Maritime sources say vessels have been warned against passing through the narrow strait without clearance, injecting fresh uncertainty into global shipping routes. Iran insists that ultimate control over Hormuz remains with its forces, framing the current standoff as a test of its sovereignty at sea. Trump has publicly shrugged off the closure as cute, insisting talks with Tehran are going well even as his own military planners quietly model worst-case scenarios.
And we'll be talking about Iran later. We have very good conversations going on. It's working out very well. got a little cute, as they have been doing for 47 years. And nobody ever took them on. We took them on. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no leaders. They have no nothing. Actually, their leaders are, it is regime change. You call that enforced regime change. But we're talking to them. They wanted to close up the Strait again, as they've been doing for years. And they can't blackmail us. In fact, a lot of the ships are coming up to Texas. I don't know if you know, in Louisiana, the ships are coming up. They got used to it. Maybe they'll keep doing it. It's worked out pretty good. But it's going actually along very well. And we'll see. But we'll have some information by the end of the day. We're talking to them. And, we're taking a tough stand. They've killed a lot of people. A lot of our people have been killed. A lot of your fellow soldiers have been killed over the years by Iran. The roadside bomb. Soleimani, I killed Soleimani.
Thank you for that. He was making the explosive form penetrators. They were making them in Iran, bringing them to Iraq and blasting through the vehicles.
Well, he was the father of the roadside bomb, essentially, and he killed a lot of people. And when you see soldiers or others, but soldiers generally walking around with no legs, with no arms, a face that's been smashed, that was Soleimani, that was Iran that did that. So we have a much different view on it than other presidents. They've gotten away with murder for 47 years. They're not getting away with it anymore.
At the very same time, Iran's supreme leader has promised fresh defeats for both the US and Israel at sea if they miscalculate. Mujtaba Khamenei says Iran's navy stands ready to inflict new bitter defeats on its enemies, framing Hormuz as a battlefield where past drone strikes are only a taste of what's possible.
The Iranian army, standing in dense, steadfast ranks, shoulder to shoulder with other fighters and armed forces, has grappled with the two main armies of the Arrogance Front and has exposed their weakness and humiliation before the world. Just as the Army's drones hit American and Zionist criminals like lightning, its brave Navy stands ready to make its enemies taste the bitterness of new defeats.
Despite active back channels, no firm date has been set for the next formal round of US-Iran talks, leaving the diplomatic track in a holding pattern. Washington insists negotiations are continuing, but officials admit that no final deal has been reached and key issues remain unresolved. With Hormuz effectively shut again, global shipping and oil markets now face a fresh wave of uncertainty, all while the ceasefire end date, and the risk of renewed war, draws ever closer.